Actually, I've told my wife's mother that both my parents died of illness, Daniel said, a smirk playing on his lips. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stood there, stunned, unable to comprehend what he was saying. Today was his wedding day, and I was about to greet his fiancée as parents for the first time. There had been no meeting between the families, and I was eager to finally make their acquaintance. But Daniel's words had thrown me off balance, leaving me reeling. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice trembling with confusion. "I'm supposed to be dead?" "Yes," he replied, his voice dripping with smugness. "My wife's family is wealthy, and they're not the kind of people someone poor like you should meet. I hated the idea of them having to deal with you, so I buried your existence." "Then why did you invite me to the wedding if you wanted to be considered dead?" I countered, my anger rising. "My being here would be inconvenient for you." Daniel burst into laughter, a cruel, mocking sound that sent a chill down my spine. It reminded me so much of Lucas, my ex-husband, the man who had shattered my dreams and left me with a heart full of scars. "Maybe to torment you," he said, his eyes gleaming with malicious amusement. "I wanted to make you suffer. Of course, you're not allowed to attend the ceremony." "Oh, this is so funny," he continued to laugh, oblivious to the storm brewing in my eyes. I fought to regain my composure, my anger morphing into a cold, hard fury. "Now I can finally cut ties with the grandma I hate," he declared, his voice dripping with disdain. A smile, involuntary and bitter, touched my lips. "As you wish," I said, my voice steady and cold. "Let's sever our ties. I'm leaving now." I turned and walked away, leaving Daniel standing there, his face contorted in a mixture of shock and disbelief. As I walked away, I felt a strange sense of liberation. For years I had been burdened by the weight of his abuse, but now I was finally free. My name is Chazelle. I'm 52 years old, and I have a husband, Lucas, who I married after an office romance. We worked in different departments, but Lucas was a celebrity in the office. A handsome man with a friendly demeanor that made him popular with women. I had been quietly attracted to him from the beginning, and one day, at a joint department drinking party, we hit it off. We were both from the same hometown, and the conversation flowed easily. We clicked. Soon after, Lucas confessed his feelings for me, and I remember feeling over the moon with this unexpected turn of events. Of course, I accepted, and we began dating. Our relationship was perfect. Lucas was always calm, and we got along so well that we never even had a single argument. Then, exactly 1 year after we started dating, Lucas took me to a well-known restaurant with a beautiful night view. As we were nearing the end of our meal, Lucas, looking nervous, began to speak. "Elizabeth, I'm truly happy that I met you. If you're willing, would you marry me? I think we could make a great couple," he said, opening a box that held a beautiful ring. It was a scene straight out of a romantic drama. Tears of joy streamed down my face as I accepted his proposal. He slipped the engagement ring onto my left ring finger, and I felt like the happiest woman in the world. We registered our marriage, had a grand wedding ceremony, and received blessings from many people. At that moment, I had no doubt that Lucas and I would live a happy life together. But my hopes were quickly shattered. Right after we got married, Lucas began staying away from home, claiming he had overtime work or business dinners. The once kind and attentive man suddenly became distant and indifferent. "Hey, Lucas, can you come home early today? Let's have dinner together. I'm thinking of making your favorite beef stew," I would say. "Shut up. Just eat by yourself. I think I'll be late again tonight." "All right, I'm off to work," he would reply, slamming the door behind him as I stood alone in the entryway, confused and hurt. I couldn't comprehend what was happening. Lucas had wanted me to quit my job to become a full-time homemaker, and I had done so, spending my days alone at home, tirelessly doing housework. During those lonely days, I was thrilled to discover I was pregnant. I hoped that maybe Lucas would come home earlier once our child was born. Time passed, and 3 days after the expected due date, I gave birth to a healthy boy. We named him Daniel. Lucas, holding our newborn son like a treasure, was moved to tears. Seeing him like this, I thought we could live happily as a family of 3. But he soon started staying away from home again, and he stopped contributing much money to the household. Suspicious of his actions, I decided to take a drastic step. Leaving Daniel with my parents, I followed Lucas. After he left work, I saw him stop in front of an apartment building and ring the doorbell. A beautiful woman emerged, and they smiled at each other before going inside together. He was having an affair. As the reality crashed down on me, something inside me snapped. I acted quickly, using my savings from before I was married to hire a private investigator to look into Lucas's activities. Soon, they gathered evidence that Lucas was having an affair with this woman. Apparently, her name was Mia, and she was his classmate from college. I confronted Lucas immediately, demanding an explanation. He was defiant. "Yeah, that's right. I've been with Mia for years, long before I married you," he confessed. "But you know, Mia is high maintenance and hopeless at household chores, so she's not really suitable as a marriage partner. In contrast, you're plain and domestic, which made you perfect as a wife in the sense of a housekeeper. That's why I married you. Plus, my parents were nagging me to get married." Lucas's appalling words left me devastated. "Who else would marry someone ugly like you?" he continued, his voice laced with cruel amusement. "Have you ever looked in the mirror? Someone at your level getting married to me? There had to be a catch, right?" Lucas burst into laughter, a hideous, joyless sound that made my skin crawl. "Is Mia the reason you stopped bringing money home?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Exactly," he said, his face smug and vulgar. "Mia's into the latest trends and loves fashion, so she's always asking me for bags, cosmetics, and stuff. Honestly, her looks and body are top-notch, but it costs a fortune. A little investment. For a beautiful woman, you know. Please, let's get a divorce," I finally said, my voice shaking with anger and despair. Lucas snorted in disdain. "Yeah, whatever. I never loved you or anything. Oh, what a mistake. Marrying you was. It was all meaningless, just a waste of time." Lucas never apologized. Instead, he continued to hurl abuse at me until the end. After that, I demanded alimony and child support from Lucas and divorced him. However, Lucas, who always liked saving money, soon fell behind on payments. He seemed to have quit his job and disappeared, so I couldn't bring a lawsuit against him. All I could do was pull myself together and focus on raising Daniel, trying to forget about Lucas. When Daniel turned 1, I placed him in daycare and managed to find a job, starting to work again. From then on, I raised Daniel on my own. It was tough managing work, household chores, and childcare, all by myself, but I did my best not to let Daniel feel the strain of being raised by a single parent. Until he finished elementary school, Daniel was a well-behaved, mother-loving child. Though he was a bit mischievous, he had almost no troubles with friends, and we managed to live quietly and peacefully together. But when he started middle school, Daniel began to verbally Abused me. Useless old hag. It's your fault I have to live in poverty. My life is a mess because of you, damn old hag. He would scream, directing his hurtful words at me relentlessly. Even as I tried to soothe him, he wouldn't listen. Instead, he would yell, "Shut up!" and strike me. Though still a middle schooler, Daniel was almost as big as an adult man. His punches knocked me to the ground, leaving me groaning in pain. "You make me sick, old lady," he would mutter with utter disgust before retreating to his room. This happened repeatedly despite my attempts to reach out to him. Daniel firmly kept his heart closed off to me. Verbal abuse and violence became the norm, and he often deliberately threw all the food I cooked right into the trash in front of me, laughing maniacally as I watched in shock. His face, contorted in a cruel grin, resembled his father's. When confronted about his affair, tired of Daniel's behavior, living with him became increasingly painful for me, and gradually my affection for him faded away. Still, I felt a responsibility to take care of him until he was an adult. So I scrimped and saved desperately, gathering funds for his college expenses. Daniel got into his college of choice and began living on his own. "Hog, you're going to miss me leaving." "Oh, you're going to live a lonely life from now on. And don't you dare forget to send me money every month. If you're even a day late, I won't let it slide," he said, his voice dripping with arrogance. Daniel seemed to think I would be lonely without him, but that couldn't be further from the truth. I was genuinely relieved that he was moving out. After all this verbal and physical abuse, I was honestly surprised he still thought I loved him. It seemed he truly believed parental love was unconditional, but that's not always the case. Even parents are human and have hearts. Continuous terrible treatment from a son can extinguish any feelings of love. Since Daniel left home during the spring break before starting university, I have been living peaceful days. I never missed a month of sending him money, but he never bothered to thank me with even a phone call. However, that was fine by me. I didn't want anything more to do with him. Years passed, and Daniel graduated from university and got a job at a certain company. One day, 3 years after starting his job, he came home for the first time in a long while. "Hey, Mom, long time no see. How have you been?" he asked, a gentle smile gracing his lips. I hadn't seen him in years. I was taken aback by his sudden change in demeanor. Yes, I've been fine. And you, Daniel? Have you been doing well?" I asked, somewhat bewildered. It had been a very long time since he had called me Mom instead of hurling insults. "Yo, I'm working hard. I'm in sales, so it's tough, but I'm hanging in there, man." "I never thought working would be this hard," he said with a laugh, almost as if he had returned to the kind son he used to be. After catching up a bit, Daniel started, "So, Mom, I want to apologize. I was really harsh to you during my student years, wasn't I? But you know, it was my adolescence. I was going through my rebellious phase, so it couldn't be helped." His words, excusing the verbal abuse and violence as teenage rebellion, were hard to accept. However, I chose to remain silent and just listen to what he had to say. "I really am sorry, Mom. I'm sorry, truly sorry. No matter how many times I apologize, it won't be enough. But I'm really sorry," he said, bowing his head. "Are you really sorry?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. It was the first time I had ever heard an apology from his lips, and I was taken aback. "Yo, I really am sorry. Sorry. I'm 25 now and finally an adult, and I've come to realize just how terrible the things I did as a kid were. I'm sorry, he said, his voice filled with what sounded like genuine remorse. As Daniel repeatedly apologized, I softly told him, "It's okay. I got it now." If Daniel was truly remorseful, I thought I might forgive him. I no longer had any affection left for him, but I was willing to accept his apology. "Thank you, Mom," he said, his face brightening instantly. He beamed with a full smile. "Actually, I have another big piece of news." "Big news." I tilted my head, curious about what it could be. "I'm getting married," he said, a hint of pride in his voice. I was surprised. I hadn't imagined Daniel getting married, but then again, he was already 25 years old. It wasn't strange for him to decide to marry at this age. She's someone I met through work. Her name is Amelia, and she's really cute and a great person, he said, his smile widening. "That's wonderful." "Congratulations," I said, trying to sound sincere. But Daniel's smile seemed to twist slightly, looking insincerely smug, which gave me a bad feeling. And indeed, my intuition was about to be proven right. "Mom, I have a favor to ask," he said, his voice changing, taking on a more demanding tone. "What is it?" I asked, feeling uneasy inside. "Could you give me a wedding gift?" he said, his eyes fixed on me expectantly. "Look, I just apologized for my past behavior, so we're even, right? You're my only parent after all, so a little celebration money would be appropriate, right? I mean, even though we lived poorly, you must have some savings, right? Please." As I listened to his words, a chill ran down my spine. So this was his true intention. His earlier apologies were just to wheedle money out of me. He wasn't truly remorseful. Daniel looked at me with expectant eyes, and I internally sighed deeply. I could have rightfully sent him away without a word, but I thought not giving anything for his wedding might be too harsh. So, as a final act of compassion, I decided to give him a checkbook with a few $1,000s in it. "It's not much, but take this," I said, handing him the checkbook. Daniel received the check from me and was overly delighted. "Yay, thanks, Mom. Well, I've got what I needed, so I'm heading out now." "Oh, I'll get in touch about the wedding details." A few days later, Daniel called to inform me about the wedding date and location. "Make sure you're not late on the day," he said, his voice laced with a hint of command. "Wait a minute," I said, my confusion growing. "I got the time and place for the wedding, but isn't there going to be a meeting between the two families first? I haven't even met your fiancée Amelia yet." It was usual to have a meeting between families before a wedding, but Daniel started laughing. "Oh, yeah, the meeting? Well, her parents are busy people, so it doesn't look like it's going to happen. We'll just meet on the wedding day." "All right?" Though I felt uneasy about his attitude, I thought it must be unavoidable if they were busy, and I accepted it. "Okay, I understand. What about Amelia then?" I asked. "Amelia's also busy, with all the wedding prep and stuff." "What was it?" "Oh, yeah. She's going to bridal beauty treatments and all, so it's fine to meet her on the wedding day too." "All right. If Amelia and her parents are okay with that, then I don't mind," I said, trying to remain positive, but my gut was churning. And so, I ended up going to the wedding day without having met Daniel's fiancée or her parents. As I arrived at the wedding venue and was about to greet Daniel's fiancée's parents before the ceremony, I was called from behind. "Hey, Mom, where are you going?" I turned around to find Daniel standing there. "I was going to greet your fiancée's parents, since we haven't had a family meeting yet." "I haven't had the chance to greet them," I said, feeling a pang of loneliness. Daniel coldly snapped back. "There's no need for that. Who said you could just go greet them on your own?" "But it's just polite to greet them," I replied, confused by his sudden change in demeanor. Daniel smirked. a cruel, familiar smirk, much like he did in his student days. My fiancée's parents aren't the type of people a poor person like you should be greeting. Her family is wealthy, from a completely different world than you. Saying that, Daniel looked toward the entrance of the venue and waved to someone. Hey, Dad, over here. Over here. Following Daniel's gaze reflexively, I saw the last person in the world I wanted to encounter walking towards us. Daniel, congratulations on your wedding, a grinning man said, his voice laced with a mockingly familiar tone. It was Lucas. My heart stopped. I was speechless. I had no idea Daniel and Lucas were connected. Lucas looked at me and scoffed mockingly. Long time no see, Hazel. You're as plain and ugly as ever. Getting older and all these wrinkles and spots. You're totally an old hag now, aren't you? LOL. But hey, you look younger than I expected. I thought you'd look even more miserable. It seems you haven't changed at all. He paused, waiting for my reaction. I was too stunned to speak. I meant his character, I finally managed to say, my voice shaking with anger. Lucas, misunderstanding, laughed happily. Right. I'm making an effort to stay young. Still a handsome guy, right? I'm still irresistible to women, you know, right? Exasperated. That was all I could manage to say. Thanks for coming today, Dad, Daniel said, beaming at Lucas. Lucas returned a beaming smile to Daniel, completely ignoring me. They chatted amiably, their laughter echoing through the venue, a cruel reminder of my own pain. When their conversation paused, Daniel turned to me and declared, "From now on, he's my only parent. Actually, my fiancé's parents think my mother died of an illness." What are you talking about? I asked, my voice trembling. Then why did you invite me today? Daniel burst into laughter, a cruel, mocking sound that sent a chill down my spine. Maybe to torment you. I wanted to make you suffer. Of course, you're not allowed to attend the ceremony. This is so funny. Lucas joined Daniel in laughter, their mocking laughter echoing through the venue, a cruel reminder of my own pain. Now I can finally cut ties with the old hag I hate. Just disappear, Daniel said, his voice dripping with disdain. A smile, involuntary and bitter, escaped my lips. I've been waiting for those words, I said, my voice steady and cold. Daniel looked stunned, his eyes widening in disbelief. Let's do as you say and cut ties. Then I'm leaving now, I said, my voice filled with a newfound strength. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving Daniel and Lucas standing there, their faces contorted in a mixture of shock and anger. As I walked away, I felt a strange sense of liberation. For years, I had been burdened by the weight of their abuse, but now I was finally free. As I left the venue, I silently scoffed at Daniel, who knew nothing of what was truly going on. 3 months later, it was my day off from work. I was enjoying a leisurely morning, brewing coffee, when the doorbell rang. I went to answer it and found Daniel standing there. He was wearing shabby clothes, his beard was scruffy, and a vacant look filled his eyes. He looked completely different from how he had appeared on his wedding day. I was admittedly taken aback. Mom, help me, please. Just let me come inside for now, he pleaded, his voice feeble. I won't let you inside, I said, my voice firm. We can talk here, but please keep it brief. Daniel, his eyes still vacant, began to speak. Actually, Dad suddenly told me he has a huge debt and asked if I could help out. I was shocked, but I asked Amelia for help, since she's wealthy. I thought she'd happily pay off her husband's father's debts, but Amelia refused. On top of that, she said she didn't think she knew me at all, and called off the engagement. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. It seemed that Daniel had been tricked by Lucas into believing he was his father. How long have you been meeting with your father? I asked, my voice trembling. Since I started middle school, Daniel answered. He approached me on my way home from school. He showed me an old photo of us, a family snapshot taken shortly after I was born. I believed he was my father. He probably kept that photo thinking it might be useful someday, I said, my voice cold. He didn't keep it out of affection. Dad told me a lot of bad things about you, Daniel said, his voice filled with regret. He said you were poor because you were with your mom and that I would have a better life if I lived with him. He said he wanted to take custody of me, but you forcibly took it away. I understood. This was why Daniel had started to abuse me, both verbally and physically. He lied to you, I said, my voice steady. He wasn't wealthy. He probably approached you out of desperation because he's in debt. Daniel hung his head. So everything Dad said was a lie? He kept telling me to marry a wealthy woman, using me all along. He was trying to hide his huge debt, I said, my voice filled with disgust. He was using you to get money. Daniel looked at me with tears in his eyes. Mom, please help me. I'm losing my mind. I felt nothing but a cold, hard emptiness. There's nothing I can do for you, I said. We're disowned, remember? But I apologized at the wedding, Daniel pleaded. I didn't really mean it. It's not just about the wedding, I said, my voice firm. I raised you alone since you were a baby. I worked full-time jobs and side jobs, and I also tried to keep up with housework and cooking. Yet, you only thanked me until you were in elementary school. After that, you repeated verbal abuse and violence. Dad filled my head with lies, Daniel said. I've already apologized for that, haven't I? You've never truly apologized to me, I said. No amount of lies justifies the verbal abuse and violence you directed at me. I have no love left for you. Daniel's face turned red with anger. Don't joke with me, he shouted. Aren't you my mother? A mother should help her child. You're inhuman. I don't have a son, I said coldly. Please leave. Daniel raised his right arm to strike me, but before he could, he groaned in pain and clutched his shoulder. It seemed he had injured himself. I shut and locked the front door. Daniel yelled from behind it, but I ignored him. A month later, I received a call from Daniel. I didn't answer, but I listened to his voicemail. Mom, listen, he sobbed. Dad won't let me go. He keeps asking me for money, and if I refuse, he becomes violent. I can't say no. He's taking most of my paycheck. I realized that Daniel's shoulder injury was probably the result of Lucas's violence. Mom, please lend me some money, Daniel begged. Save me. I'm begging you. I immediately blocked Daniel's number. I had no intention of helping him. Months later, one of Daniel's co-workers came to see me. He told me that Daniel had been admitted to a psychiatric ward. I drove past Daniel's workplace and saw him, looking gaunt and emaciated. He was living a miserable life. He asked me to come to you if anything happened, the co-worker said. He probably wants you to look after him and manage his finances while he's hospitalized. I politely thanked the co-worker and sent him on his way. I had no intention of visiting Daniel. Soon after, I moved to a new town, ready for a fresh start. I had finally been freed from the torment of Daniel and Lucas. I began to engage in hobbies like gardening and joined an outdoor club. I was living a more vibrant life than before, enjoying every day. I was finally free. After watching full story, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave a comment below. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more awesome stories like this. Stay blessed and healthy. Thank you for watching and see you in the next story. Bye.